Welcome back, dear friend. Find a cozy spot, let your shoulders relax, and take a slow breath. Tonight, we're stepping into one of the most timeless tales from the ancient world, the story of Daedalus and his son Icarus. A story about dreams, about flight, and about the delicate balance between freedom and caution. So close your eyes, let the world grow quiet, and come with me to the island of Crete, where a father once built wings from feathers and wax, and a boy dreamed of touching the sky.
Long ago, beneath the warm sun and the endless blue sky of the Aegean, there was an island called Crete. It was a place of tall cliffs, whispering olive trees, and seas that glimmered like silver. But for Daedalus, the great craftsman, and his young son Icarus, the island was not a home, it was a cage. Daedalus was known far and wide for his skill. With his hands, he could shape stone, wood, and metal into wonders that seemed touched by magic itself. Yet his brilliance also bound him to the will of kings. On Crete he had built many things for King Minos, and among them was the great labyrinth, a twisting maze so vast and complex that no one who entered could ever find the way out. But as the seasons turned, Daedalus found himself and his son trapped by the very king he had served. Minos, fearing the secrets Daedalus carried, forbade him from leaving the island. The sea was guarded, the ships were watched, and all paths to freedom were cut off. For Icarus, young and full of restless energy, the island felt too small, too confining. He would stand on the cliffs, staring at the horizon where sea met sky, and dream of what lay beyond. Daedalus, watching his son's longing, felt a heavy weight in his heart. He knew they could not remain prisoners forever. The craftsman began to think not of walls or ships, but of the birds that glided freely above the waves. Their wings carried them where no guard could reach, and their flight knew no boundaries. And so, in the quiet of his workshop, Daedalus began to gather feathers, some fallen, some taken from the birds that circled the cliffs. With wax warmed by the sun, he bound them together, row upon row, crafting wings unlike anything the world had ever seen. To Icarus, it was like watching a miracle take shape. "Father," he whispered one evening, eyes wide with wonder, "will these truly let us fly?" Daedalus looked at him, the firelight flickering across his face, and answered softly, "Yes, my son, but flight is not without danger. We must be wise." And so the wings of freedom were born, and with them the hope of escape from the island of Crete.
The morning came soft and golden, with the sun rising over the cliffs of Crete. The sea stretched endlessly, glowing as if the horizon itself had been brushed with fire. Daedalus stood with Icarus beside him, the wings now complete, resting like great white sails against the rock. For Icarus, the sight of them filled his heart with wonder. His fingers traced the feathers, each one carefully arranged, bound with wax and patience. They shimmered faintly in the sunlight, fragile yet full of promise. It was as though the dream of every child to fly like a bird was suddenly within reach. Daedalus placed a hand on his son's shoulder. His voice was calm, but there was a gravity in his words. "Listen well, Icarus. These wings will carry us across the sea, away from this prison. But you must be careful. Fly neither too low, for the sea's spray will weigh you down, nor too high, for the sun's heat will melt the wax. Stay close to me, and we shall find freedom." Icarus nodded eagerly, though his eyes sparkled with excitement more than caution. The thought of leaving the island behind, of feeling the wind beneath him, was almost too much to contain. Together, they strapped the wings onto their arms and shoulders. Daedalus moved with practiced precision, tightening the bindings, checking every feather. Icarus, though fidgeting with anticipation, followed his father's example. At last, Daedalus spread his wings. With a leap, he lifted from the cliff, gliding into the Io like one of the seabirds. The wind caught him, carrying him forward with ease. Icarus watched, his breath caught between disbelief and delight, before he, too, jumped. The L rushed around him, cool and wild, and suddenly he was flying. The cliffs fell away, the sea sparkled far below, and the sky opened like a great, endless road. Laughter burst from his chest, carried on the wind as he soared beside his father. For a moment there was no island, no prison, no fear. There was only the vast sky, the freedom of flight, and the bond between father and son.
High above the glittering sea, Daedalus and Icarus glided side by side, their wings cutting through the soft morning air. At first, Icarus followed closely, as his father had told him. Every tilt of Daedalus's wings, every gentle dip or rise, he mirrored with care. But soon the wonder of it all began to overflow. The rush of the wind, the sparkle of the waves below, the endless sweep of the blue sky. It was more than Icarus had ever imagined. He felt as though the world was opening just for him, stretching wider and brighter with every beat of his wings. "Stay near me, Icarus," Daedalus called, his voice firm, carried by the wind. "Remember what I told you. The sea is dangerous and the sun burns hot. Balance is the key." Icarus nodded, but his gaze drifted upward. The sun, golden and radiant, hung in the sky like a crown. The warmth of it touched his face, filled his chest with boldness. He thought of all the days he had longed for freedom, all the nights spent dreaming of flight. Now, here he was, not bound by walls or chains, but soaring. The seabirds wheeled around him, calling out as if welcoming him into their kingdom. He chased their shadows for a while, swooping and rising, his laughter ringing out like a melody above the waves. Daedalus, watching from below, felt both pride and worry. His son's joy was pure, yet reckless, and he feared that joy might lead him too far. But to Icarus, the sky itself seemed to whisper, "Come higher. Come closer, taste the fire of the sun." His wings carried him upward, stronger, faster, each stroke pushing him toward the golden light. The air thinned, cooler now, yet the brilliance of the sun grew warmer on his skin. Daedalus's voice reached him again, this time sharper. "Icarus, not so high! Remember the wax, remember my warning." For a moment, Icarus hesitated. He looked down, saw his father's steady form gliding far beneath, saw the wide sweep of the sea. But then he lifted his eyes once more to the heavens. The pull was too strong, the call too sweet. Just a little closer, he thought, just a little nearer to the sun. And with that he rose higher, his wings gleaming in the bright morning light, chasing a dream that glowed above him.
The morning sun climbed higher, its golden rays spreading across the endless blue. Icarus, caught in the wonder of it, soared upward, with joy bursting from his chest. His wings beat fast and strong, each feather glistening in the light, as though he had truly become one with the sky. Below, Daedalus's heart grew heavy. He could see the danger in every upward stroke of his son's wings. He called again, his voice trembling with both love and fear. "Icarus, my son! Stay with me! Do not reach so high!" But Icarus, lost in the sweetness of freedom, barely heard. The warmth of the sun wrapped around him like a promise. He felt unstoppable, untouchable, as if he were no longer bound by the earth at all. Then it began, the first sign of change. The wax that held his wings together softened under the heat of the blazing sun. Tiny drops slid down, unnoticed at first. A feather loosened, then another, drifting away like whispers into the wind. Icarus laughed, chasing the sunlight, but his wings grew lighter, uneven. He flapped harder, trying to steady himself, but the feathers slipped faster now. Daedalus's cry rose again, desperate. "Icarus, the sun, it melts the wax! Come down before it's too late!" Only then did Icarus look at his wings. His laughter faltered. He saw the feathers scattering, felt the strength leaving his arms. His heart pounded, not from joy, but from fear. He tried to descend, tried to follow his father's call, but the wings no longer obeyed. The air grew heavy around him. His body wavered, dropped. A rush of wind tore past his ears as the sky tilted. He reached out as if the sun itself might catch him, but nothing held him. Down he fell, through the bright air, his cry swallowed by the roar of the sea below. The water opened wide, shimmering like glass, then closed over him with a crash. Waves rippled outward, swallowing the boy who had dreamed too high. Daedalus, still aloft, saw it all. His heart broke like the shattering of glass, yet he kept flying, forced to live on with the weight of loss. The sea below was calm again, save for the feathers floating gently like white petals scattered on the tide. And there, in that endless expanse of water, the boy's dream met its end, not in chains or walls, but in the wide embrace of the sea.
The waves rolled quietly beneath Daedalus as he hovered in the air, his wings heavy with sorrow. He dared not look too long at the sea where Icarus had fallen, for the ache in his chest grew sharper with every glance at the scattered feathers. The father's invention, his gift of freedom, had turned into a cruel reminder of loss. Yet Daedalus could not stop flying. His arms ached, but the memory of his son's laughter and the sound of his cries still echoed behind him, urging him forward. "I must go on," he whispered, his voice trembling in the open sky. "If not for myself, then for him." The vast ocean stretched endlessly, each wave glimmering like silver under the sun. Daedalus searched the horizon, hoping for land, for a place to rest his weary body and heavier heart. Time lost its shape as he glided on. Morning light gave way to the dim glow of evening, and still no shore appeared. His mind wandered as he flew. He thought of the labyrinth he had built long ago, the walls that twisted and turned without end. He thought of the Minotaur, of the choices that had led him here, far from Crete, far from the life he once knew. And most of all, he thought of Icarus. "My boy," he murmured, "you wanted to touch the sky. Perhaps you did, for a moment." The air grew cooler as night began to rise. Stars pricked the heavens one by one, shimmering like the eyes of gods watching from afar. Daedalus felt small beneath their gaze, a man burdened with wisdom, yet powerless against fate. He flapped his wings slower now, conserving strength, but every movement reminded him of what had been lost. At last, just as despair began to weigh heavier than his wings, a shadow appeared on the horizon, a faint outline of rocky cliffs, bathed in the last colors of twilight. His heart quickened. Land! A place to grieve, a place to rest his weary body and heavier heart. But the closer he flew, the more uneasy he became. The cliffs rose jagged and sharp, their edges glowing red as though fire lived within them. Strange cries echoed from the shore, neither bird nor beast, but something in between. Daedalus's breath caught. Was this a sanctuary, or another trap laid by fate? His wings faltered for a moment, and he steadied himself with a deep breath. The sea hissed against the rocks below, the cries grew louder, and in that moment Daedalus realized whatever awaited him on this island was not ordinary. And as he drew nearer, a shadow moved along the cliffs, tall and watchful, waiting for him to arrive.
Daedalus glided lower, his weary wings catching the sea breeze as the cliffs drew closer. The jagged rocks looked sharp enough to tear the feathers from his arms, yet he pressed on. His body ached, his spirit heavier still, but the pull of land, any land, was too strong to resist. The cries he had heard before grew clearer now, echoing off the stone walls. They were strange, almost human, yet stretched with tones that made his skin prickle. He slowed his descent, his sharp eyes scanning the shoreline below. There, beneath the fading colors of dusk, he caught sight of movement, tall, deliberate, and far too graceful to be a wandering beast. A figure stood on the edge of the cliff, draped in flowing fabric that swayed in the wind like smoke. Daedalus felt his heart skip. The silhouette was unmistakably human, but something about the stillness, the patience of the figure made him cautious. Who would wait at the very edge of the sea, staring skyward as if expecting him? The night deepened. Stars scattered above, silver against the dark velvet sky, while below the waves crashed angrily against the rocks. Daedalus angled his wings, carefully approaching the shore. His muscles burned, but curiosity kept him aloft. Who was this shadow? A friend? A foe? A god? The figure's voice finally broke through the roar of the sea, low, melodic, and almost too soft to be real. "Come down, Daedalus. Your journey is not over yet." He froze mid-flight. His name! The figure had spoken his name. The inventor looked around wildly, scanning the cliffs, the beach, the horizon. No other soul stirred. Only this one shadow, this one waiting presence, who somehow knew him. Daedalus's heart thudded. His instincts screamed for caution,
but exhaustion pushed him forward. Slowly, carefully, he began his descent, the tips of his wings brushing the salty air rising from the waves. The figure stepped closer to the edge, its face still hidden in shadow, yet he could feel its gaze fixed on him, sharp and unyielding. And then, just as his feet nearly touched the stones, the figure whispered again, words carried by the wind, chilling him to the bone.
Daedalus staggered onto the rocky ledge, his wings drooping at his sides. His knees buckled beneath him, but he steadied himself, his eyes never leaving the figure who had spoken his name. Moonlight shifted across the cliff, finally revealing a face, or what should have been a face. Instead, Daedalus saw a pale mask, carved smooth, without eyes or mouth, as though the sea itself had shaped it from stone. And yet, though the mask bore no lips, the voice came clear as a whisper in his mind. "I know why the boy fell," it repeated, softer now, almost kind. Daedalus's chest constricted. Grief surged like a wave, but anger followed swiftly behind. "You know nothing of my son," his voice cracked, echoing into the night. "The boy was headstrong, yes, but he was mine, my Icarus." The figure tilted its head, silent for a moment, as though listening to something beyond the reach of mortal ears. Then it spoke again. "The sky is not empty, Daedalus. It holds secrets as old as the sea. Your wings brushed them, but your boy, he touched them. That is why he fell." Daedalus shook his head violently, feathers trembling with the motion. "No, it was wax and sun. My own craft failed him." The figure's mask glowed faintly in the moonlight, its voice lowering to a near murmur. "Your craft carried him higher than any mortal has ever flown. Do not mistake the tool for the truth. There is more yet for you to see." A chill spread through Daedalus's veins, colder than the sea spray on his skin. He wanted to run, yet his legs felt rooted to the stone. He wanted to demand answers, yet his throat closed tight. Finally, he forced out a whisper. "What are you?" The figure tilted its head again. For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them, broken only by the crash of waves. Then the voice, soft as drifting sand, replied, "I am the one who waits where the sky meets the sea." And with that, the figure raised an arm and pointed, not to the cliffs nor to the waves, but out into the endless horizon where the stars kissed the dark ocean.
Daedalus followed the pale finger that pointed toward the horizon. The stars shimmered faintly on the ocean's surface, as if the heavens had spilled their jewels into the water. A low wind stirred, carrying with it a sound, soft, melodic, almost like a lullaby. At first, Daedalus thought it was the waves lapping against stone, but the longer he listened, the clearer the sound became. It was not the sea. It was voices, many of them, singing in tones both sorrowful and sweet. The masked figure's voice entered his mind once more. "You hear them now, don't you? The song of the horizon. Few mortals ever notice. Fewer still dare to follow." Daedalus's heart pounded. He clutched the frame of his battered wings, feathers broken and soaked from the sea. His rational mind insisted it was exhaustion, grief twisting his senses, but the melody was undeniable, weaving through his chest, tugging at something deeper than thought. "What do they sing of?" Daedalus whispered. "They sing of what was lost and what waits to be found." Daedalus's throat tightened. His mind returned to Icarus, his laughter, his wild joy, the way he had soared without fear. Could his boy be among those voices? Could it be that Icarus had not been destroyed by the fall, but carried? He turned sharply to the figure. "Tell me, was my son taken by them?" The mask gleamed in the moonlight, but no answer came, only the sound of the sea and the faint, haunting chorus. Frustration surged in Daedalus's chest. "If there is a path to him, I must know it! Show me, or leave me be!" The figure did not move. Instead, the ground beneath Daedalus seemed to shift. The cliffside darkened, the horizon stretched further, until it felt as though the very world was bending toward the sea. The voices swelled, their song deepening, calling. Daedalus staggered forward, compelled by something greater than will. His feet brought him to the edge of the stone. Below, the water shimmered with threads of gold, like rivers of sunlight flowing through the waves. The melody grew louder, so loud it filled his chest, his skull, his very bones. Behind him, the masked figure finally spoke. "Step forward, Daedalus. The horizon awaits. Beyond it, you may yet find what you seek." Daedalus's breath quickened. His body trembled between dread and desperate hope. Could it be true? Could the horizon itself hide the secret of Icarus? The wind surged, lifting the feathers of his broken wings. The golden currents below pulsed brighter, as though inviting him. Daedalus closed his eyes. He took one step closer to the edge, and then the edge of the cliff crumbled beneath Daedalus's toes. For one long moment he lingered there, his heart thundering, the song of the horizon swelling around him. Then, before doubt could return, he stepped forward. The world tilted. Wind tore past his ears. For an instant, he felt as if he were flying again, carried by wings that no longer truly existed. Then, instead of falling into darkness, the sea caught him. But it was not the sea as he had always known it. The waves that should have swallowed him instead parted like a shimmering curtain. Golden streams of light twisted through the water, wrapping around him like gentle hands. He was sinking, yes, but without fear, without breathlessness. The water seemed to breathe for him, filling his chest with calm. All around, the chorus of voices grew clearer. It was no longer one song, but many, weaving together, voices of men, women, even children, carrying notes that trembled with both sorrow and joy. Daedalus turned, and in the liquid glow he saw shapes. Figures drifted through the golden current, some with faces he recognized from stories of long ago, heroes, kings, nameless wanderers, all who had once sought freedom and found themselves claimed by the sea's secret. Their eyes were not empty, they shone like stars, filled with quiet knowledge. One figure in particular caught his breath.
small, lithe, with hair that gleamed like sunlit bronze. "Icarus," Daedalus whispered. The figure turned. For a heartbeat, Daedalus believed. The boy's smile was there, faint but familiar, his arms reaching as though to embrace, but when their hands almost touched, the figure dissolved into a swirl of light, carried deeper into the current. "No!" Daedalus cried, lunging after it. The current pulled him forward, sweeping him into the heart of the song. Around him faces turned, watching him with something like pity, something like warning. "Father?" a voice murmured, soft as wind across feathers. It was Icarus's voice. He was certain of it. His chest ached, not from drowning, but from longing. The sound came from deeper still, down where the current brightened into a whirlpool of golden fire. Daedalus pressed on, the pull of the horizon song guiding him. His body no longer felt heavy or frail. The sea seemed to bear him as easily as air. Every step, if steps could be taken beneath water, drew him closer to that shining core, closer to the voice of his son. But as he approached, the light twisted. It was not only gold now, but streaked with black, shadows curling through it like cracks in glass. The song wavered, its beauty turning sharp, as though hiding a grief too deep for words. The masked figure's voice returned, echoing through the water. "Beyond the light lies truth, Daedalus, but not all truths are meant to be held." Daedalus clenched his fists. He had come too far, endured too much. Whatever truth awaited him, he would face it. The golden whirlpool widened, opening like a gate. Daedalus stepped forward, straight into its heart, and the world around him shattered into brilliance.
The golden whirlpool carried Daedalus into a realm unlike any he had ever known. The sea, the sky, even the world of stone and earth seemed to dissolve, replaced by a vast space filled with light. It was neither above nor below. It simply was, infinite and still. In that brilliance, wings floated, feathers spun slowly, suspended as though the air itself were holding them tenderly. Wax shimmered like molten sunlight, yet it did not melt. Daedalus reached out, and when his fingertips brushed one feather, he felt a warmth flood his heart. Not heat, but the memory of love. And there, standing before him, was Icarus, no longer falling, no longer broken, but whole. His hair gleamed with golden fire, his eyes brighter than the horizon at dawn. He smiled as though he had been waiting for his father all this time. "Father," Icarus said softly, and the word was music. Daedalus fell to his knees, his throat tight with tears he did not try to hide. "Icarus, my boy, I feared you were lost forever." Icarus shook his head gently. "Lost? No, I flew too far, yes, but the sky did not end me. It welcomed me. The horizon is not a line we cannot cross, Father. It is a doorway, and I have been waiting to guide you through it." Daedalus trembled. His hands longed to hold his son, yet fear lingered at the edges of his heart. "But I failed you. I warned you not to fly too high, and still I could not save you." "Do you not see?" Icarus said, stepping closer, until his hand rested lightly over his father's heart. Your wings gave me freedom, my flight gave me wonder, and even my fall gave us this reunion. Nothing was lost. Everything became part of the song. The horizon's song swelled around them, no longer sorrowful but whole, carrying notes of laughter, of wind, of sunlight on water. Daedalus felt his burdens lift, the years of grief, the weight of regret. In their place grew peace, deep and enduring. Then Icarus extended his hand. In it shimmered a new pair of wings, lighter than air, brighter than flame. Come, Father, fly with me once more, but this time without fear. Daedalus took the hand. Together, father and son spread their wings, rising into the brilliance beyond the horizon. And as they soared, the world below grew quiet. The waves stilled, and the song faded into silence. The story of Daedalus and Icarus did not end with tragedy, but with reunion, beyond the sky, beyond the sea, where love carried them farther than flight ever could. And now, dear dreamer, let the wings of sleep carry you too. Close your eyes, let your heart rest, and drift gently into the night. May your dreams be bright and your sleep deep and peaceful. Until next time, good night.